Hey everyone, welcome to Knit with Fi. I'm Fi and welcome today to a yarn review. Today I will be putting under the spotlight a fully natural fibre yarn that is a fraction of the cost of many other yarns that are similar spec on the market at the moment. But is it value for money or is it just a waste of cash? Stick around and hopefully you will find out. As you probably saw from the thumbnail, today we'll be reviewing a yarn from the brand Drops. I find Drops very interesting. They seem to be able to produce a lot of natural fibre yarns, but at a really economic price. I also find that they are very widely available around the world. But for me anyway, it's very hard to find them in store. So I've seen a lot of it online, but I've only ever seen one ball of Drops yarn in person before I've bought it, and that is Drops Fable, which is a sock yarn. That's the only yarn I've been able to see in store. So it means it's very difficult to go and see the yarn, to see what the colours actually look like in daylight, to see what the textures are like and how it feels before you put your money down, which is why I wanted to do this review. Hopefully it means that I can help you make up your mind and have a little bit more confidence in whether it is the yarn for you or not before you make the purchase. Before I start though, I would like to say a couple of things that this review is not. So the first thing is it is not a replacement for going and seeing and feeling the yarn. If there is a shop near you, if you can make it to somewhere that sells Drops Lima, then I would strongly advise you to go, see the colours in person, give it the squish test. Is it soft? Is it prickly? Is it what you were looking for the particular pattern that you want to make? And make a decision based off that. This is meant to be really helpful to you if at all possible, but it is not a replacement for that. The second thing it is not a definitive answer on whether or not you will like the yarn. It is completely subjective. This is my opinion. These are my experiences with this yarn. I'm really hoping they'll be helpful with some tips and tricks and some ideas. But if I hate it and you love it, then stick with it, buy it, use it. If I say, oh, it's good for this type of project, and you think, no, it's better for this type of project, and you've done it and you like it and that's how you want to do it, brilliant. That is great. This is not meant to rain on your parade in any way. It's just hopefully a helpful resource for you to get an idea of what Drops Lima is like, to give you a little bit more confidence before buying it. In this video, we will look at the description and the specs that are provided to us by this company. I will also talk you through my pros and cons of this yarn, what projects I think this yarn suits better and what it isn't. I will also talk you through any notable experiences that I've had, and I will show you projects I have used this yarn for so you can see how it looks knitted up as well as in the ball. So without further ado, let's get started. So the yarn that I'm reviewing today is Drops Lima yarn, and I'm going to start off with some specs for you. This yarn is a DK weight yarn. It is sold in 50-gram balls. It is about 100 meters per ball. The suggested gauge is 21 stitches and 28 rows per 10 by 10 centimeter square, and the recommended needle size is about 4 millimeters. Same with the crochet hook size is about 4 millimeters as well. Currently on Wool Warehouse, it is sold in 36 different colors, and there is a big range of shades and tones and that sort of thing. It is not the largest array of colours that they sell. I believe that their Yarnsmith's own brand, a lot of those yarns have a wider choice of colours, as does Cascade Yarns, often has a really wide choice of colours. So it's not as wide as that, but there are a lot of colours to choose from. There are other online sellers. The ones that stood out when I looked it up was Linda Hobby, that also sells it. It is sold for around about £2.20 to £2.50 a ball, although it is on sale at the moment on both Wool Warehouse and Linda Hobby, down to £1.70 a ball. It is a worsted spun yarn, which means it is very dense. therefore I would recommend it for projects that are sort of traditional, heavy, thick, warm winter sweaters, things like Nordic sweaters, Icelandic sweaters, colorwork sweaters as well, because the yarn is so tight and dense and doesn't have fluff to it. Then I would recommend color work and also patterned work. So things like Guernsey sweaters with patterns across it, or cables, they will show up really well with Drops Lima. It is not that it doesn't have any halo effect to it whatsoever, but the fibers are smoothed out. In a worsted spun yarn, the fibers are smoothed out and tend to be pointing in the same direction, and so there's no general floof to it, but there will still be little bits and hairs sticking out as well. So it does look very rustic, and I think it's a great yarn to use if you want something that looks rustic but does not feel rustic. This here is a ball of Drops Lima. So you can see it's got a little bit of a halo to it there, but if you look closely, it's very defined plies in it. I believe it's 4 ply. Let me unwind it and see. Yes, I don't know if you can see there, but it is 4 plied. Of course, these plies are thicker than your regular 4 ply because it is a DK weight yarn. So it does have 4 plies, but it is a DK weight. And yeah, they're very, very tightly spun and very clear plies. Because of the alpaca content, this yarn is a lot softer than a lot of other rustic yarns. So I really like using this yarn if I want something really rustic, but that doesn't feel rustic, that isn't rough to the touch. Some people do find alpaca itchy, and so bear that in mind, but I have not found alpaca itchy, not in the way that mohair can be itchy. And I found this yarn very soft against the skin, both in the ball and knitted up. So I have actually made 2 projects with this yarn that I will show you now. I've got one is the Terracotta Sweater by Ellie Knits. I'll put information about the pattern if you're interested down below. So this I made for my husband. It has been sat in a cupboard, so it's a little bit creased, but hopefully you can see that it is quite dense, it is quite heavy, it is very well structured. You can see the patterns really show up and the texture really shows up. When I knit with it, it did split very slightly, but not a lot. So I wouldn't say it is a bad yarn for splitting. I would say it's fairly average for splitting. Hey, I want to caveat this. I think it came across like it splits quite a lot, which is not true. I barely noticed any splitting with this yarn. There was a little bit, but I almost always noticed some splitting with the yarn. It's kind of the nature of knitting. I have noticed that rustic yarns like this tend to split less than some of the softer yarns like merino. And I think the fact that it's 4 ply instead of 8 ply, which a lot of DK weights are, also adds to the fact that it splits less. So I don't think it splits a lot, but it just didn't stand out as one that split loads less than everything else. I also want to add that with the stitch definition, what I really like about this yarn, and I think it's a mixture of the fact that it's rustic, that it is 4 plied as well, and that it is non-superwash, is that the stitch definition is really clear and you don't get those weird curls that you get with some superwash merino yarns. I will try and put a picture up here now for you to see that really spun yarns, sometimes you get this really weird stitch look, which I didn't get any of that with this, and I think it is much less common with rustic yarns like this. Back to the show. It has because of the natural fiber, it feels quite people say elastic. I don't want to use the word elastic. It doesn't feel elastic, but it has give to it, which means when you're knitting, it doesn't it's not hard on your fingers. So knitting with this yarn, I didn't find it uncomfortable on my fingers. I didn't get sore hands if I knit for it for too long. It does have a little bit of like a hairy feel to it and look to it, but the stitch definition is very good. So this one I knit on its own just with Drops Lima, and yes, I didn't have any issues with the yarn breaking or anything like that. It felt very tight, it felt very firm, it felt very sturdy, and it has turned out really nicely. The other thing I like about this yarn is that when I blocked this jumper, it grew a little bit, but it didn't grow inordinately. So I did expect the color work and the patterns to open up a little bit and loosen, which it did very nicely, but it didn't lose its shape, which some superwash wool I've found it can grow loads and lose its shape, and this one, it hasn't done that at all. It has kept a lovely shape to it. The color work, as long as you pick two very different tones, then it's very crisp and visible, which is why I would recommend this yarn for color work. The other thing I have made with this is the Ingrid sweater by Petite Knit. So this was a jumper that I made for myself, and this is a mixture of Drops Lima and Drops Kid Silk mohair. So it is two yarns held together, and as you can see here, even with the mohair, the stitch definition for patterns is very, very clear and very, very crisp. I do really love this jumper. I finished it a couple of weeks ago, but I do really love it. Again, blocking it did make it grow slightly, open the stitches up and even them out a bit, which was nice, but it didn't grow too much. It has kept its shape. It's got more of a halo with the mohair, but yes, it feels soft. I can wear it against my skin. I feel a little bit of a prickle from the mohair in this one, but not from the alpaca. And this one, I do not feel a prickle at all when I put this on. In my opinion, the knitting experience for this yarn is very good. It did not hurt my hands. It didn't slide off the needles too much. It didn't split. It didn't break, anything like that. So I would say I had a very positive knitting experience with this yarn. I also did a little bit of research into the company itself. Not a lot. I think it's quite difficult to find out for certain exactly how ethical companies are, but they have a lot of information on their webpage, which I will put in the description below, which implies that they are very keen to be ethical. Their yarn comes from South America. I think the Drops yarn, the wool comes from Peru. Sorry, the Lima yarn, the wool comes from Peru, but a lot of their yarn comes from South America, where they do not do mulesing. I know that some of their yarn has hit some known standards. I'll put the standard up here and the types of yarn. So they definitely have made an effort to make sure their yarn is ethical and it is clear where they come from. And they do say that they put the countries where the countries that the wool comes from or that the fibers comes from, they do display it wherever possible. Cons to this yarn. As I've said, I think it has a very particular use case. So for sort of heavy winter sweaters that are patterned or color worked, or even plain stockinette, as long as you want it to be like a fisherman sweater, that sort of thing, I think this works really well. If you want something light and airy, this is not the yarn to use. I personally really like light yarns. I like blown yarns and chainette yarns. They're really fun to knit with. This is not one of them. So if that is not what you're getting when you're using this yarn. I think it's also a really great yarn if you are new to knitting and you want something that's a fully natural fibre and you want to try a pattern out first. I did this an awful lot when I started knitting. Is I bought a pattern I loved and there was some yarn I really wanted to make it with, but it was kind of a bit more luxurious. Then I would get some Drops yarn. I would get this Lima, for example, and I would make the jumper with that first, make all my mistakes, figure out that, make sure that I understood the pattern top to bottom, kind of saw how it grew in the wash, saw how it blocked out, etc., etc., and then after that make the top again with a really luxurious yarn, knowing that I was happy with the pattern. And actually, to be honest, I've quite often found that I prefer I did that with this jumper. This is Drops Sky, and then I made it with the yarn I wanted to make it with initially, and I wear it way more in this yarn. I love this this yarn, which is Drops Sky. So yeah, I would definitely recommend this particular yarn. I'm also amazed at its value for money, to be honest. So I had a look on YarnSub, which is a website that compares yarns. So it'll show you yarns that are very similar to the yarn that you're interested in, that can be used in the same project, can be substituted in for it. So the yarns that came up on YarnSub, which I have seen around in shops locally, are things like Rowan Alpaca Soft DK. So that one is a 30% alpaca and 70%. Ooh. Sophie's come to join us. So that yarn is a 70% wool and 30% alpaca yarn. Let me double check that. Yeah, it is a 30% alpaca, 70% wool yarn, so slightly less alpaca in there. 125 meters per 50 grams, so slightly longer, which means it's slightly less dense. It is sold in 50 gram skein, 50 gram balls, and the shop that I found online for it sold it at £7.99. For 50 grams. So if you compare that to Drops, which is about £2.20 to £2.50 a ball, that is a saving of 2/3, which is very good. Another one is West Yorkshire Spinners Illustrious DK. That is sold on Wool Warehouse in 100 gram skeins. It is also 70% wool, 30% alpaca, so a slightly lower alpaca percentage than the Drops one. It is 225 meters for 100 grams, so that would be 112.5 meters, so slightly longer than the Drops one. And it is sold when it's not on sale, which it looks like it is at the moment. It is sold for about £11 per 100 grams, which is £5.50 per 50 grams. So again, that is over double the cost of the Drops yarn. And the third one I would like to compare it to is Cascade Woolpacker, which is a 40% alpaca, 60% wool yarn. So it has a slightly higher alpaca content. It is sold in 100 gram skeins, and that is 200 meters per 100 gram skein, which is exactly the same meterage as the Drops, because 50 grams would make it 100 meters. So it is the same length as the Drop, the same density as the Drops, but with a slightly higher alpaca content. And it is sold for roughly £11.50 for the 100 grams. So that takes you down to £5.75 for the 50 grams. So again, over double the price of the Drops. I have not used any of these yarns, so I cannot tell you how much better they are in feel, in durability, anything like that, if they are at all. But I just thought I'd give you a few similar yarns that you could compare with this Drops, and really showcase how much value for money you're getting with this Drops yarn. So overall, in my experience, this yarn is a really great workhorse yarn. It is really good, particularly for big, thick, warm sweaters with patterns on them, with interesting cables or interesting stitches or color work, where you want it to be big, thick, heavy, and it is great value. It is nice and soft. It is a very rustic yarn, but it does not feel rustic the way that 100% wool yarns often do. So it's a great substitute for that. And again, if you compare it to another Drops yarn, Drops Alaska is a lot more rustic, feels a lot rougher on your hands than Drops Lima. So there's the alpaca content there makes a huge difference to this yarn. So yes, it is not a fancy yarn. It is not light and airy. It is not fluffy. It is not going to be delicate. It is really durable and structured yarn. But if that is what you're looking for, and in particular, if you want a yarn that's just a go-to, that is not going to break the bank, that is going to help you make these big jumper patterns to keep you warm in the winter, then this is a really good yarn for that. Right, I hope you found that helpful. If I've missed anything, please do leave a comment down in the comments, and I will try and get back to you. I can't promise to get back to everyone, but I will try and get back to you with that. If I've said anything wrong as well, put that in the comments and let me know. And if you disagree with me, if you really hate Drops Lima for some reason, let us know, tell people, because I really want this to be a useful place where people can learn about yarns and feel a little bit more confident in what they are buying before they buy it. Right, so thank you very much for sticking around to the end. I really hope you'll like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video. I really enjoy making this type of video, and so I would like to make it again, but it does take time and effort, so let me know if you liked it, and I will hopefully see you again with some more yarns. Don't worry, they won't all be such positive, glowing reviews. So I do really like Drops Lima, and I've used it twice recently in projects, which is why I picked it as my first yarn review. But there are yarns that I have used that I really don't like as well. So I'm not going to pull punches. I'm not going to say everything's amazing, because in my experience, it is not. But I wanted to start off with this one because I feel like it is the yarn that I have the most experience with. Right, thank you very much. I hope you have a really good day, and all the best until I see you again. Bye.